Hi, I'm Miss Jackie from the Portsmouth Public Library. Today I'm going to show you how to make a snuffle mat for your dog or other pet. Now I've looked on YouTube. There are a variety of snuffle mats for sale. There are a variety of different types of mats that you can purchase. What I did was I got this. This is a sink mat. I only paid $1 for it at Dollar Tree. But you can also go to a place like Home Depot or Lowe's and you can buy what's called an anti-stress mat, and it's a heavier rubber mat. Usually they're a large, pretty large mat that you can cut into squares, and they have holes in them. So that's another possibility if you want a heavier mat. You just have to cut them in half or cut them into different pieces. Need a good pair of scissors. They don't have to be expensive scissors, but they have to be able to cut. You need fleece. Fleece is a very nice, soft material. You can make blankets. You see blankets made out of them. Here's a piece of fleece that I purchased at Walmart. This is really cute, and this is what we're going to use for a program for our teens. This is actually a baby blanket, and this was also from Dollar Tree. But this is a mat. This little baby blanket was only $1, and for the purposes of this mat, 3 of these would be enough to make one of these. So this particular stress mat is not exactly a square. It's 11 by 12 inches. So interestingly, you need 130 of one color of fleece and 132 of another color of fleece. You can use any color of fleece that you want. I like the 2 different colors because I think it makes it a lot more fun for you to sort of weave it together. And you could, it doesn't matter what color you use. You probably need a little over, if you're going to just buy material, you probably need a little over 1.5 yards, or about 1 yard to 1.5 yards of material. It just seems to be a little over 1 yard, depending on the size of the mat. And again, you would need 3 of these cute little baby blankets. So I wanted to show you something about the way that this fleece comes. A lot of what I've seen, I'm going to fold it in half to get it in the camera. A lot of what I've seen with the fleece comes in a width of 1 yard. So here's our yardstick. So actually, I'm sorry, it comes in the width of about 60 inches. This is 36 inches. This is 1 yard. So that's a pretty wide piece of material. Okay. So I think if you're going to buy material that is 60 inches wide, I think to make it easier for you to use, I would suggest something like this. And what I've done is I've done a little plan of dividing the fleece into 3 different sections. So each section would be 20 inches, so 20, 40, and 60. You just cut up like that. So in this case, you would have about, let's see, we'll do this, about 20 inches. Do this real quickly. Okay, so this is about 20 inches. So you would have a 20-inch section and just cut it up like this, cut it right up. Okay, then after you cut it into the section, then you could cut 21-inch strips. So here we have, let's see, there we go. Okay, so about 1 inch. And once you cut your strips, you will have 20 strips that are, if you use a 1/2 yard, so I'm using a 1/2 yard of light blue and a 1/2 yard of dark blue. So a 1/2 yard is 18 inches. So you'll have 20 strips that are 18 inches long. Then you can cut those in half. Because really, you need between, I would say between maybe 7, 8, 9 inches, maybe even 10 inches. And it doesn't matter if yours vary a little bit. That really doesn't matter at all. It does not have to be perfect. But I think doing this way, the least amount that you have to cut and try to keep it exactly straight, it'll be easier for you. I would say just put it down on a table. With fleece, it's a little bit difficult to make markings on there. You can do it, but I tried it with a pencil. It's not the easiest thing. So I think if you just, maybe you could take a pencil and do a little dot so you'd have something to go by, and you would just cut your strips up like this. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about the Snuffle mat and why we use a Snuffle mat. Okay, a Snuffle mat is what we call a pet or a dog enrichment toy. We have a book here. It's called How to Speak Dog by Sarah Whitehead, and it's published by Scholastic. And I found out in this book that a dog has about 25 times more scent receptors in their noses than humans do. So when you take your dog on a walk, or you have a pet on a walk, the fact that they're sniffing is really a good thing. They really, it's a way that they sort of gauge their surroundings. You've heard a lot about dogs and about how they can sniff out drugs, about how they can even tell if a person has a medical ailment. It's very important, and it really the Snuffle mat is a way that we're going to put a little treat. We're going to put treats in here for them and let them sniff them out. So I don't think I showed this before. Any kind of a little small, kind of a smelly treat. The freeze-dried ones that have a lot of smell are good. I would not use their regular food because that's going to be messy. So the first time that you use your Snuffle mat, depending on the size of your dog, this would be a nice one for like a small to medium size. Even a large dog, would be fine. And you might want to take the treat and just place a few of them on your mat and kind of let them sniff it out and eat it. It's a reward for them when they get their treat. Once they've kind of figured that out, then what you can do is you can take the treats. And remember, we're not going to try to overfeed our dog. I've seen some YouTube videos where they just sprinkled all kinds of treats in there. And we don't want to overfeed our dogs. So whatever you would normally do as a treat, because this is not their food, you would take several maybe and just hide them in little places. And let your animal, your dog, your cat, your gerbil, your rabbit, let them sniff out and have the reward of the treat. So that's a lot of fun for the dog. It's very important for them to be able to use their nose, and it keeps them interested. I think once a day is probably a good amount of time to let your pet use the Snuffle mat and then put it away. The one thing, I looked up some of the information about how to care for your mat, how to keep it safe, and how to keep it clean. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to remember that you're going to be this is a toy. So it's a safe toy as long as you are there and you're helping your pet. The problem with the fleece is if after a while with them sniffing and eating, they're finding their little treats, they might sort of smell the treat on the fleece, and you don't want them off by themselves chewing on this, which could be dangerous if they ingest it. You also don't want them to chew on the mat. So the idea is be with your pet and let your pet sniff out the treats, eat the treats, and then put the treat away. You can put it in, a plastic bag and just lay it up. I wouldn't seal the bag, but just put it up. Maybe do this once a day because you want it to be a fun thing, and it's like a treat for them. And then at the end of about a week, the best thing to do is you want to clean the mat and wash it. Now, what I forgot to tell you was it suggested that when you get your fleece, whatever kind of fleece you get, whether you get it by the yard or the half yard, sometimes you can find remnants in stores, and you can do that. Or as I said, you could buy the 30 by 30 piece of material, the cute little blanket. You can do that. But I would say to give it a wash first. It doesn't have to be in a washing machine. You could do it in the kitchen sink if you like. But just wash the material before you start cutting it. Don't use any water softener, any softener like Downy or anything like that. Try not to get a really smelly material, a really smelly detergent, because you don't need that. You want them to be able to smell the treats. And after that dries, then you'll be ready to start your project. So, and then what you can do is, after you wash it, after you have it for about a week, as I said, I would go outside or over your trash can and kind of shake it out. Make sure there's no crumbs in there. You might want to take your hands and kind of fluff through that to get all the crumbs out. And then you can wash your mat and let it air dry. So I hope you enjoy doing the mat. This was a lot of fun to do. It's relaxing. Your pet will certainly enjoy it, and I hope you enjoy it, and I hope it gives you and your pet a lot of fun time together. Okay, let's start making our mat. Now, these mats are not exactly square. They're 11 by 12 inches. And what we figured out was we needed about 132 strips in one color and 130 in another. It's a math thing, but it's fine. And there's another way you can, if you don't have quite enough, you can skimp on this a little bit. So I started weaving this before. I wanted to show you how. This is what it looks. So if you see the way we did it here, we have the two colors. We have the dark blue. We went around here. We had one in each of these holes, and we started the next one in the same hole. Okay. I think what works best is to go ahead and try and do 2 rows of one color in this direction, and then go back and do a row in the opposite direction. So from here, you're going from left to right, from where I am, left to right, left to right. It's just the opposite how you're looking. And then you're going from up to down, up, down, up, down, up, down. So let me show you how we can do this. We went through, over here, we went through the first row, over. Then we started over like that. Then we continued in the second to the third. So let me show you here. So I'm going to put this through like this. And down like this. Now, you can turn it over right here. You can turn it over right like this and put a knot in it. You don't have to pull real tight. It's probably not a good idea. And then just do it in a knot. Make a tie like that. And that will give you this. Or, if you prefer, what you can do is you can just start threading, weaving it through like this, one like that. So this row, this hole to this one, and then you're going to put the next blue one again in this hole. So all of these little cross things will be covered. Okay. So I'm going to turn this over, and again, we'll tie that. You could do a square knot. I don't think it really matters. And you can pick any color that you want. I don't think the dog really knows the difference what you're doing, but it's kind of fun to do it. And it's a little bit of contrast, and I think it makes it a little bit easier for you to see what you're doing. So, okay. So now what we'll do is we'll go back here. So you see how on this one, we started at the top. We call this the first hole. We went from 1 to 2. Now we're going to do from 2 to 3. And then we're going to come over here. And you can see here, we've got kind of a little square here. We've got the 2 dark blue, the 2 light blue. And over here. This is something that really you could do as, you could do it as a family project. You could let some children help you with it. If an adult is doing this, you could have young children. If a teen is doing it, you could do it by yourself. But it's something that I would say there's no real hurry to do it. You can just take it at your leisure and take some time, particularly when you're cutting. See, this is how it's going to work. And here's another one. I'll do one more here. And I think with this mat, this is why you don't want to go to a piece of fleece that is too wide. I said that you could make these 1 to maybe 1.5 inches. But again, it's going to depend on what kind of mat you're going to use. I purchased these mats. We're going to do a library project with teens, and this was a good size mat to use, but you can use other types of mats. So you can see it like this. And you will be going, again, it's probably easiest to do maybe 2 rows of the dark and then follow back like this, and you can do it all the way down. So let me just show you. This was the finished mat. Now, if you see this is kind of what we were doing before. But as you can see, when we got down to here, I had run out of some of the fleece. So instead of going back in each one, I kind of skipped. And I think if you buy remnants of material, however you buy the material, if you find you're running out and you don't want to go out and purchase any more, it's not really going to make a difference with this type of mat. These holes are small, and as you can see, you have plenty of little nooks and crannies where you can hide little treats in there for your pet, whether it's a cat or dog, or maybe a gerbil, a rabbit, any little animal that likes to sniff out treats. So I showed you the option of how to cut the yard of material, the 60-inch wide. This is the 30 by 30 inch baby blanket that I got at the Dollar Tree. And I think the easiest thing to do with this one that's 30 inches is to cut it into 3 separate sections. 3 separate sections. That will be the easiest way to do it. So each section is going to be about 10 inches. So, and then after that, you can cut it into 1-inch strips. And then you will have in one blanket, you will have 90 strips of fleece that are 1 inch by 10 inches. Now you can see here that there is stitching around here, and this is a sort of a it's a rounded edge, but that doesn't really matter. There is a tag on here, so if you want to, you could just cut that very end of that all the way off and just get rid of that. But that's another way to cut it. I'm just trying to let you know how to be the most economical. But again, you can do it any way you want. These are just 2 ideas of how to cut different kinds of material.